And for our final broad content section this evening on Foamfest Live 2020, we return to the OG host, Foam Data Services, who will be talking to the wonderful folks from Detroit Dart Talk as they offer a retrospective talk on the growth of the hobby in the last few years. So I will hand you over to Tom from FDS, who will take us in for the next half hour.
Good evening, and it's almost evening in America. So thank you very much for joining me, gentlemen. And I'm sure that Tom, who's been our previous host, has smashed it right out of the park and left me with a really hard act to follow. So thank you very much for that, Just a Jolt. And I'm not going to shave my head. We haven't reached £3,000 yet. So I am joined with, it's the evening of the 3 Ts. I haven't had a cup of tea, but I've now got 3 Ts in the stream. So I've got Tom here from Detroit Dart Talk, and I have also got Tim from Detroit Dart Talk. And gentlemen, if you'd just like to introduce which person you are, and then we can get right in it.
Hey, this is Tim.
Hey, this is Tom.
Okay, now I don't know how many people in the UK are very familiar with Detroit Dart Talk. Obviously, that area of America has had Nerf for quite some time. It's been quietly a kind of little Nerf stronghold up. And if you could just tell us a little bit about the background, about how you got into the hobby and kind of where you're at now with games and stuff like that, that'd be great, and what you do.
Tim, do you want me to start it off, or would you like to go first?
Go for it, Tom.
Okay. I started in the hobby, I want to say 4 years ago. Sounds about right. I'm not from Michigan originally. I moved up here, and when I moved up here, I didn't have any friends. I just got into like Nerf modding. Looked for a local group. At that time, we had Detroit Ann Arbor Nerf Club and Suburban Detroit Nerf Club, the club that me and Tim are both now admins of. And just kind of started from there. Started snowballing. Then we found out about this guy named Detroit Dart Club, who is Connor, one of our other hosts, and he hosts like corporate events there. And at that time, he had open play. So I went there, met Connor. I think 1 or 2 weeks later, I met you, Tim. Is that right?
Thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, it just kind of snowballed. And now we're the biggest club in Michigan. I don't know if we're the only club anymore.
There's the Lapeer Club, but
there are a few smaller clubs that are more infrequent than us, but we're a decent sized presence here. And past that, I'll let Tim discuss that.
Yeah. We get a lot of members from the Ohio area at our events because they're so close. So, but as far as how I got into the hobby, it's all started with ordering some blasters off of eBay. So I had something to do with my kids, and just like I think most people in the hobby, I got them, and it was like, man, these really just don't perform very well. So I started YouTubing and tinkering, and then I heard about End War back in 2017, and so I went to that, and it's been a downward spiral ever since.
And of course, End War in 2017 was in Ohio, so it wasn't far for you to travel either, and it was kind of in the right place at the right time.
Exactly, yep.
And so the club scene, obviously, if people aren't familiar with American geography, Michigan is in a part of America where you have seasonal weather, and you have very big snows in Michigan because you get those winds coming down across the Great Lakes from Canada and hitting the upwelling warm air, and you can have really heavy snows in winter. Now, your club, am I right in thinking that Detroit Dart Wars is a nice indoor venue, is it not?
Detroit Dart Club, yeah, it's very nice that we have a partnership with them, because it does allow us to play throughout the entire year. Whereas, normally without them, we would be, we still at this point in the year, we might not even be having events yet because it's still snowing some days, even though we're already into April here. So,
and there are a few other reasons why we're not currently.
Just
a few others.
Yeah, we're going to ignore those. We're just acting like it's not here.
Yeah.
It's the British way. We're going to carry on drinking tea while the world burns. That's just how we roll. And so you guys you went in. There was already clubs in the area that you were in, but they were relatively small and they were kind of scattered around. And so obviously Detroit Dart Club, the building and the kind of structure, gave you guys a focus. Was that how it worked?
Somewhat. I mean, so our club is a separate entity from the Detroit Dart Club, which is the business. But because we had, so quick side tangent, we started hosting HVZ nights once a month at the Detroit Dart Club. That grew out of like an End War prep night where everybody came in their loadouts to just like test everything before we went to End War in 18. And because of that, we've really had a huge growth to our enthusiast club. So the partnership with the Detroit Dart Club is what has really helped us grow so big, because that HVZ night has given us a lot of exposure.
Uh-huh. And a lot of people come to HVZ who might not necessarily do a PvP. So, yeah. Tom, you were coming from outside the area, and what was the key thing that kind of made you feel like this was a scene that you wanted to be part of when you first visited some of these clubs?
As I'm sure everyone knows in Nerf, everyone is just super, super friendly. Everyone's more than happy to help out however they can. I think the first war I went with a stock Retaliator and a hammer. The X-Shot, like 6-shot revolver, the bug splat one. So I had just gotten into it. Then from there, I started doing springers, went to flywheelers. Now going back to springers with a Terminator having been built about an hour ago.
Oh, right. So you've had a busy day already.
Yeah. It was something I've been meaning to do. I'd stripped a screw on it, so I was like figuring out how to get that out.
Oh yeah, that's always a fun job. That is. And there's no real easy ways of doing them, is there?
Oh, I went in out with the Dremel.
You see, Americans and power tools, what can I say?
Hey, it works.
So many times I've had this conversation with Bobo, you know.
You go straight down and it's easy to get out.
Yeah, reaching for the thermonuclear weapons at the first sign of trouble.
Hey, if it works, it works.
And that's exactly what Will said to me too. But before we get distracted by too much teasing and a slight tangent, I think it's really important to kind of look at where we've come to now. And if we look at the sort of the way things are set up now, we've got the beginnings of a kind of really solid, certainly in the UK, we're in the beginnings of a really solid club scene where you can be within 2 hours now, pretty much. Nearly the whole country is within 2 to 4 hours of a war, which by you guys' standards is not far to drive. You can fit our whole country inside your state, I think, with space to spare. I've got a feeling if you fold the UK kind of over on itself, it'll go in Michigan.
I would think so. It wouldn't surprise me.
If not, we could borrow a little bit of the watery part of the state, and it will still probably fit. If we put the bits we don't like Cornwall, into the sea, then they won't mind. We'll put them in the.
Hey, no, that's our fresh water.
Right. Yeah, you don't want dirty Cornish people in the fresh water. I can definitely say that's probably a big risk. Well, I'm in the county next door to Cornwall, so we have this kind of traditional rivalry going on. So I have to get those in there whenever I get the opportunity. And have you noticed in the last, say, 12 months, have you seen more growth as more things? I mean, we've had this huge growth in hobby level blasters being available off the peg. And how's that changed the dynamic with games?
How many new people did we have at our last?
I think we were up to like 40 at our last event. I mean, I really think that what has given the hobby such a great stability, like you were talking about, is the fact that we're growing in multiple different branches, so to speak. You know, we've seen a big rise in competitive nerfing. You know, HVZ, at least in our area, is very prominent. You know, obviously you guys have terminal infection and whatnot. But us being so close to Ohio, there's a lot of college universities that do HVZ events.
Yeah, Ohio State has always been a big stronghold HVZ campus, hasn't it? And it goes right the way back to the dawn of the HVZ hobby.
Not only them, but there are also several other universities in the Ohio area that have strong HVZ clubs. Uh-huh. So you have the competitive, you have the HVZ, and then we have a decent turnout for Park Wars or just regular PvP type events. So those three different branches, at least in our area, have caused a very strong atmosphere that our community has really built itself around, because some of our members are interested in some branches of that, but not in others. But the fact that we have all three going on draws people from different areas. So, that really, I think, even in other areas, is what's helping to drive a lot of the growth.
I think so. Those Facebook articles that people in the hobby get tagged in 10, 20 times, where it's like Chalo's I can't remember the name of it now. Tier, is that it? Is like his big rival Gatling gun.
Yes.
People see that and they're just like, wow, that's really cool. How can I do that? And so that starts them down the rabbit hole, joining the hobby, joining a club. So I think as annoying as those articles are that we see 10, 20 times a day, they help draw in a crowd, and we like crowds.
Yeah, for sure. And if you've got a game and it's humming, it's always better than just 5 guys you already know shooting each other, it's a good start, 5 guys you already know shooting each other. But if it happens every week, you get to know those players' play styles, and it gets pretty boring.
Yeah. Another thing is the advancement of 3D printed blasters in the hobby. I know a guy at my local library, he made a full FDL3, never been to an event, never modded before, just thought, hey, I'm just going to make the top tier thing in the game.
Yeah, and so that's crossing over, isn't it, between the hobbies, where we've got penetration into 3D printing, we've got penetration into things like the tech media through some of those articles on modders, and obviously we've had things like Luke Out of Darts has done his book, and we've had movement into other areas where previously Nerf just didn't get to.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know, for those of that are members of the FDL user group, that group has seen an explosion in new members once the shop went on hiatus, because then people started doing completely scratch builds, and I think the membership probably doubled in size from people talking about how they were going to overcome the obstacle of not having all of the internals available. So that's a perfect example of reaching out to the larger community, or the different communities, and intermingling.
And that's made a big difference, because it's meant that the kind of development of that has carried on, and it hasn't slowed down, even though the main product of that group wasn't being made by the originator, because they kept it open source. Kind of the last version, the FDL3, is now kind of owned by the people who like making and building them.
Yeah, I am glad that the actual product will be available again, though. I'm glad they're going to be back up and running.
Yeah, and I think it's been really good. If you talk about the work of Terminator and things like that, I mean, who would have thought, even a scant 3 years ago, we would have been extremely surprised at, a choice of aftermarket springers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With
I'm surprised at how comfortable they are.
Yeah. And
when I hear aftermarket, I expect it to be uncomfortable, but the Terminator, for what it's worth, like I'm a all skinny guy, it's really comfortable for me.
Yeah, and it's not even just, there's the Terminator and the Prophecy, obviously. We've got Jet making the Ceta, and now Dart Zone, at least in America, is producing the Dart Zone Pro, which is, they're a, commercial grade company, for lack of a better term, I guess, actually producing stuff for our hobby. So the fact that we have an actual toy manufacturer that didn't start as a dedicated company for our hobby, recognizing us is huge.
Yeah, that is really, really great. And I'm glad to see Foamcast Radio Podcast saying that he's fine. And if you want to come in, Foamcast Radio Podcast, we'd love to have you on. I think all of us are just pleased that you're okay. I mean, obviously here, when I started out, I've been in the hobby now, easily 8 years, I think. I started out probably the second BritNerf organised war. BritNerf, the forum, is kind of, Foamfest is here because the BritNerf forum was here, and all of us kind of ended up in here because of that. So that was kind of the start of it. And our first games, I think the very first organised game was about a dozen players in a park in central London. Well, not in central London, in East London, central East London, and that's a Royal Park at Greenwich. And it was a dozen people, half of whom were LARPers and the other half were Nerfers. Oh, it's dropping in and dropping out. If he wants to stay in, that'd be good. And from there, we've had games with 5 people turn up. And now we've got games of 50, 60 people happening almost every week. You could play in a game. And if you don't mind traveling, and some of our hosts, if you saw Mal and Al earlier, they've traveled to games where they've done 3 weekend games in 3 weeks.
Wow.
And you can go play every day on a Saturday and a Sunday in some respects, at least a Friday and a Saturday. You can do a triple header now.
I thought that things were further away in the UK. I know if people in the US had access to a game 2 to 4 hours away every weekend, people would be driving every weekend.
Yeah,
people already are driving every weekend from like here to New York.
Yeah, we have black holes in the system at the moment. Our biggest black hole is in the Midlands of the country, kind of in the middle, and that's just down to the fact that nobody in Birmingham has stepped up to organise a game, and it's been difficult to kind of hold anything there. I've tried to start stuff in the Midlands a couple of times, but we've now got Northern England, we've got Southern Scotland, we've got Eastern England, we've got Western England and Southwestern England, and we've got several games in London and the surrounding area now. So I can pretty much reach. If I'm prepared to drive for 5 hours, I can get to a game. I can get to a game every week. And I think probably everybody in the country is within 5 hours drive of a game now, if they really wanted to get there, because it's a small country.
Yeah, what you're talking about with black holes in like networks, I think that's what we experience of a lot of here in the U.S. You'll get a large cluster of games, and then nothing for several hours, then a large cluster again. Like I think the Midwest up here is a pretty good sized cluster, but once you get outside the immediate area. Next closest, I think, is Naptown, maybe.
Yeah, and you've also got what's its name? You had Rochester too, didn't you? Up in New York.
Yeah.
That's what
over further, isn't it?
10-hour drive. That's a sizable drive, like 10 hours, I think.
But then if you go across, you've got obviously Michigan, Ohio, and then what's the one after Ohio?
Indiana,
that's it. Apologies for missing my American state. So you're quite a long
I don't know where it is. I'm not good at geography.
That's where Naptown is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But you guys have got like big gaps, and I'm we struggle to work out why those gaps occur. And you know, if we can manage to get a game in one place, why can we not get a game in another place? What is it that makes our games grow in a particular area and not in another?
I would say once that seed's already been planted, once there's already games going on there, people are just going to go there. They're not going to spend time trying to set up their own when they can start from scratch, when they can just go to something that already exists.
I think go
on.
I was going to say, I think a lot of it comes to exposure. You know, the clubs that take the time to advertise themselves or have a way of letting more people know what's going on are the ones that are going to grow, because just by word of mouth, you're not going to get a lot of growth, get a lot of new blood to come to events. It's going to end up being the same 5 people shooting at each other, like you were saying.
Uh-huh.
And that's part of why the Dark Club has been huge for our club, is because people are seeing about us on Facebook. People are seeing about us in the Dark Club's YouTube videos, and also by word of mouth, as well as our friends that are coming up for the HVZ events. They're hearing about that by word of mouth. So it's a much broader reach.
Yeah, as usual, a nice broad publicity base is going to help your game. But you have to start it for people to come. And we've got a system in the UK. Well, Britain has a system where if anybody says they're going to start a game, we all give darts from our pool to start them off. And everybody will send them a couple of hundred or even 1,000 or more darts to get their dart pool going. And we also help each other out with guidance around insurance and with guidance around liability and all that kind of stuff. Because if you want to hire a venue here, you have to have liability insurance, which can be a real problem.
Tom, there's a movie quote that goes great with this from Field of Dreams.
Yes, if you build it,
you will come.
Yeah, and that is kind of how Nerf works. And
yeah,
if anybody's watching this and bemoaning the lack of clubs in their area, what would be you guys' top piece of advice if their people don't have a game near them?
Set one up. Sit down. Take the time necessary. If you want it, go for it. If you want to make a game in your area and you wish there was, do it.
Find a few friends and have them each bring a few friends, and take the time to research good game types and have blasters to loan out to people that aren't going to have them, that are decent blasters, so that they have a fun time.
And obviously that kind of willingness to kind of just get your hands dirty, it's not going to arrive on a plate, people. We're in a situation where we can't provide games for everybody. As much as we'd like to have a game in every town, the only way we have games that you can now go to is because individuals and groups started games and went and did it.
Yeah. And social media is huge these days in our hobby. If you're thinking of starting a game, do a little bit of internet research, find out where the closest club to you is, and reach out to them for maybe some at least virtual assistance. I wouldn't be surprised if in some cases people from that close club might be willing to travel to help get your club going.
Yeah, and I'm just going to remind people that like a rising tide raises all boats. That's one of my favorite sayings. And if you've got a couple of clubs, don't be shy about cooperating. Don't think people are going to come and steal your stuff. And if there are bad actors popping up, then those people go away in time. You might have somebody who's annoying and tries to poach all your membership, but people get wise to that, and you've got to stay true to yourself. So I'm going to remind people before we start on the wrap up, don't forget that you can still enter the raffle. If you're in the EU and the UK, you have about 34 minutes or 30 minutes if you're going to be typing slowly to enter the raffle. And remember, it's £5 per ticket. So every £5 you donate or freedom dollar equivalent, you will get a ticket entered in the raffle. And obviously, it's your chance to win your prize. So far, we have raised £2,803 for the Bristol charity, which is an astonishing amount of money. So thank you to all those people who've already bought tickets and who've already donated to our page, because that's definitely a lot more than last year when we had a face-to-face event and we could come and mug people in person. So you guys, have you got anything you want to add before we wrap?
Check us out on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, maybe. I don't know. Where else are we? Is that it?
I think you hit everything.
I think I nailed it. We've got a Discord, too. We've got a Instagram, Detroit Dart Talk. Check us out. We talk about stuff every week.
Shameless plug, Tom.
Usually Nerf.
Yeah, shameless plugging is perfectly okay because you've given your time to come and talk to people about what you do and how you do it, and we really appreciate that. So thank you very much to Detroit Dart Talk and Foamcast Radio Podcast. I'm glad to see you're safe and well. And if you want to get hold of him, is he on your same stream as you? Is he on the Detroit Dart Club stream, or has he got his own? Does he have to do the Foamcast?
Foamcast is his own podcast.
Right. So you can check out the Foamcast Radio Podcast then just by searching that in Google, correct?
Yep. He also has a user group on Facebook that you can look up.
Okay, thank you very much for helping him out, because it looks like he's had a hell of a day already today.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to very quickly ask the host how much time we have remaining. I'm on time by my book, but I don't know whether he's 1 minute remaining. Excellent. So don't forget.
Nice chatting with you, Tom.
Okay, and it's been a pleasure to meet both of you, Tom and Tim. And don't forget, anybody who's watching, before we go to the break, please make sure that you buy a raffle ticket if you haven't already, because remember, we're going to help a load of young people in Bristol and the surrounding area and their families. We're going to help them with some mental health. We're going to help them with some cool stuff, and hopefully we'll get them doing some Nerf.